Coming up on Gunters Universe, episode 36, I talk with Theresa Duringer, co-founder and creative director at Templegate Games. They're the makers of the Gear VR game Bazaar. Stay tuned.
VR Chat, the next frontier. These are the experiences from Gunters' universe. His continuing mission? To seek out and connect with VR devs and passionate enthusiasts. To discuss theories, beliefs, and rhetoric of all kind. And to boldly go where no show has ever gone before.
Welcome everyone to Gunters Universe. This is the one and only live talk show broadcasting from the metaverse. Join us in VR chat every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific to watch the show live in VR. You can always watch the live stream at hitbox.tv/Gunter444. I'm really honored to have my guest tonight. My guest is Theresa Duringer, co-founder and creative director at Templegate Games. And they make the Gear VR game Bazaar. How's it going, Theresa?
Hey, good. It's going really well today.
Awesome. And so I got to meet you at Oculus Connect 2, and we got to participate in the beach cast at the lovely beach house that got kind of populated there at the end of the big party there at the end of Connect. So it's good to now meet back up with you, but this time in VR.
Yeah, that was amazing. I couldn't believe how tight the community was, and everyone was so open. It was just a total trip. I wasn't expecting Oculus Connect to be that friendly.
Yeah, I went to OC1 as well, but OC2 was it topped it. It was really, really good, and of course it's always about the community. All right,
definitely.
So let's jump into things and starting off with some general questions about your game. Go ahead and just describe, what is Bazaar?
Bazaar is a flying carpet game, and you are flying around on this open aqueduct system in this sort of mystical city, and it's all procedurally generated. You're getting bigger and bigger labyrinths the farther you progress into the game, and you're collecting things. And you end up trying to collect a wide array of items that are going to help you deal with the different traps and enemies that you encounter. So there's a lot of inventory management, also just maze navigation, and the whole thing is just kind of crazy because you're in VR, obviously, and you're steering with your eyes.
Yeah, and so what inspired you to make this game? You know, where did it all kind of originate? Where did you get the spark for it?
I had gone to Oculus here in the Bay Area, the Facebook headquarters, and I had tried a few demos, and one thing that kept happening for me was I would get really immersed in the world. Obviously it's VR, but I would want to move my legs because I would want to explore the worlds, and when I would do that, I would be told, stop moving, you're going to knock into a coffee table or you're going to pull a cord out or something. So I really wanted to make a VR experience that satisfied that compulsion to explore without giving a player the incentive to move their legs. Because I think right now VR is so new that people don't always know how to interact with it and how input works.
Yeah, I mean, input
so that's where the
great on your
came
game.
From.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
It's really, really, intuitive. A lot of it's, just using gaze to look at objects or look at the main menu, and I like how it's pretty fast. It's not a long gaze. It's pretty snappy, so you can really get a lot of response out of it. And yeah, you're sitting on a magic carpet, and I don't think a lot of people would get sick, even though there's locomotion. You're not really speeding up and speeding down. I think that's a big deal.
Yeah, we kind of put a ton of energy into that. We've been following all Carmack's sort of guidance and just the VR community, because for us the most important thing is player comfort. And I think there's always more innovations to make, but we kind of have this dinner before dessert mentality of just do the basics, do the heavy lifting, do all the performance and all that is going to create a comfortable environment, and then you can go and kind of tackle some of the fun stuff once you have the basics down.
So I was going to ask about, like, what were some challenges? I'm sure that is probably a good example of a challenge. Is there, something else that was really difficult to figure out?
Yeah, like there's a couple of the big ones for me are, one, I've never really done mobile development, or I've never shipped a mobile game before. So I'm used to developing for PC and console, and you have just so much more processing power at your disposal. So making a VR game for mobile is kind of asking a lot because you have these crazy performance requirements. You have to be at such a high frame rate, and you're also drawing this 3D world, and then we additionally decided to make this procedurally generated, which has lots of draw calls and stuff like that involved.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then you're working on this like device that has such a limited capability compared to a PC. So that was just like this total challenge, but it was kind of neat because it focused our development. Like, if you've seen our style, it's super stylized, and that was a way we could tackle getting as much into the game without having to be totally realistic or something like that, and keep it fast.
Yeah, let's give people a look at it. I'm going to pull up your trailer on the big screen here. Just give me a few seconds, and I love the style, I love the art direction. So yeah, let me pull that up. It's a great trailer too.
Thank you.
My screens are washed out here, so it definitely this is not exactly how things look. Your colors
Yeah, but
are much
it is
better.
very bright and pastel, which is
Mm-hmm.
pretty different. I think we stumbled onto this nice place where it's not claustrophobic, but I have heard some feedback that people want a little bit of relief for their eyes from the bright, so we're thinking of doing some stuff that involves a little bit more dark, maybe just at certain times in the game.
Right, I was reading the Carmack critique, and that was, I believe, his critique, is some people are sensitive to flickering, and apparently the lighter color, especially if you look up at a bright sky or clouds, it's more sensitive there, so he was recommending like at least sometimes doing a darker environment to relieve that. So that was interesting for me to learn as well.
Yeah, his review was full of gold. Like that, I was just like feeling so lucky to get all that feedback, and we have a patch actually. We've already fixed a lot of the stuff that he talked about. That's pretty much ready to go. So yeah.
Oh, that's great. So who's all part of Temple Gate Games? You have partners in crime?
Yeah, it feels like a big team to me because my last indie game I made with one other person, so we're 5 now, and I'm like ridiculously excited about my team. So I've got Todd Semple, who made Plants vs. Zombies, and then I've got Jeff Gates and Patrick Benjamin, who worked with me on Spore, and Patrick Benjamin also worked on SimCity with me. And Patrick is amazing, like animator. He did procedurally generated animations for Spore creatures. He's super talented. And Jeff Gates was responsible for pretty much entire cell game in Spore. He's just a crazy talented engineer, software engineer. And then we also have B. Rosechi, who came from the Zynga side of things, and it does really cool like animations, pixel art. And you wouldn't think that we would use that much sort of like 2D pixel art and stuff like that for a VR game, but because of the how cheap texture memory is on the phone relative to other things, we do lots of flipbook animations, especially for particle effects.
Interesting. I can see now, like, the Spore background, the procedural generation experience, that having that in your game, which I think is a huge strength for the replayability. It's super interesting.
Yeah, we're pushing on that a little bit more. We're rolling out an achievement system very soon that's kind of like a little bit inspired by Jetpack Joyride, if you've ever played that one, that I think will pull together the replayability that we have with our procedural generation, but also kind of tutorialize some things that I don't think are intuitive about the game. Like, I've just been sort of humbled by how difficult UX on VR is. Like, there's just, I think because right now input is totally fragmented, you have all these proprietary input systems, and usually they're associated with one different HMD at a time. There isn't a standardization involved, and so players, that coupled with the fact that VR is so new and players don't have a lot of experience, and plus there hasn't been a generation of content out there to establish what are going to be the like input sort of like pillars. There's just so much difficulty in getting intuitive interactions between the game and the player. So yeah, that's something that has been difficult for us, and I think that the achievement system will help be able to kind of guide people just a little bit more.
I felt like it did, it progressed well, so I got to learn everything, like all the items. It got more and more complex. Maybe it was a little like it's a great way to traverse the environment by looking forward, or you really need a swivel chair for this. And I love how the game takes advantage of looking everywhere. You're looking in all corners, looking for coins, you're looking for items, you're looking out for traps and crocodiles and all kinds of stuff. You're looking behind you, you're turning all the way around to then have your magic carpet turn around. But at first it was a little like hard to control. You can't stop the carpet, so you kind of want to do that. But I thought it was pretty intuitive. I love the inventory management. And, the fact that you can't stop your carpet, you're rushing to get into your inventory to get your bow and arrow out to shoot the croc, or get your shield out, or you got to eat food. Your food is running low, and it's yelling at you to eat, and it's quite stressful a little bit, so it's fun. I'm really digging it.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad you've played it enough to recognize some of those things, because I don't think we did a great job at surfacing the tension very early. And so I think a lot of people are like, okay, this is cool, and I'm exploring, and I'm picking up things. But really, it is kind of meant to be a little bit of this plate spinning and a little bit of this crazy tension. And I think we kind of like gently ramped people into that because, part of that was because having that new VR experience, people get frustrated if there's something new, so we wanted to be very gentle. But yeah, I kind of like, if you ever play my other game, Cannonball, it's like frickin' stress attack. It's like you're just having to do so many things at once.
Yeah, unfortunately I didn't get to play it when it was during the game jam. Because I had Lollipop on my Note 4, so about half the things I tried didn't work, but I was so happy that everything's working in the gear store. So yeah, lots of enjoyment there. Let's see, what else is on my mind? You guys don't use Unity, you actually roll your own game engine. Can you talk about that a little?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We have our own custom engine, partially because Jeff and Todd are just super geeks about doing that and making it. They've been working on it for 6 years, probably as a pet project. They actually ended up selling it when they sold their company to Valve, but being able to retain the rights to it. So it's just
cool.
been an ongoing project. But what's neat is there's two advantages. One, we're not sort of beholden to any bugs or anything like that that can hit other people. Like I know during the VR Jam there was a big update to one of the popular engines out there, and it switched the pricing models, and that kind of seemed to give people a bit of a hiccup. But also, it's just not, there's no black box. We control everything, and that has been especially useful for performance reasons. Because we do everything C++, which it's just a huge advantage for doing mobile development where every little bit of memory management helps.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I want to take just a moment to welcome the user AB just joined us. I haven't seen him before, so welcome to the show. He's actually right behind you, creeping up on you a little bit. If you're new to the show, you can have a seat there in the audience. You can, whoops, the thing's going to start playing music. So two things happening. Yeah, just hold down E when you're in the audience seating to have a seat, and that'd be awesome. And then I'm going to try to pause the music. So that was hilarious. A little bit of bagpipes during the show. Come on, InstaSync. I have to use a site called InstaSync to sync up these videos. VRChat doesn't do that, and apparently it's freaking out right now. Okay, well, let's hope it doesn't kill things. Any plans for additional input controls? Of course, you know, the big buzz is motion controls. What do you guys think about that?
I think I lost focus there for a sec. Input, I feel like we'll probably keep it, you know, the game has a very sort of like lowest common denominator style of input. I mean, you just need gaze, and that's, you know, you've got eyeballs. Hopefully you have eyeballs if you're in VR, so you got it. But I mean, we're excited to like play with different things. When I was at TechCrunch Disrupt a couple months ago, I met these people who had this cool demo. It was this ring, and you stick it on your finger, and you can do kind of like gestures with that, like almost like your finger becomes a wand. So
the nod ring, I believe, right?
That was Xmers. So I'm just happy when people send me like their prototype hardware and I can tinker with it. My team can geek out over it. So we'll probably like, because you know the market's so tiny, we probably won't like develop specifically for any particular input system other than just gaze. But we'll definitely probably be releasing some updates that play around with some of the cooler things out there, just because we're excited about them.
Excellent.
And I know the buzzword of the moment is presence, and like, you know, when you have the touch controllers or something like that, when your hands map up in the game to what you're seeing, there is a huge presence win. So I think we would definitely want to try to take advantage of some of that too.
How long have you been developing the game?
We got started with this one with the Oculus VR Jam. I know that someone else in here was mentioning Ludum Dare. So we're just like huge game jam junkies, and we do Global Game Jam and Ludum Dare a lot. And so we heard about the VR Jam, so we started with that. And then being winners in that kind of gave us the validation to push it further.
Cool. All right. So something I want to introduce on the show is try to break things up in a few segments. So we'll come back to the interview and talk about the Gear VR and maybe some more of your background, maybe some of the press you've been getting, like with Scoble, and you know, I saw a CNET article, which is all exciting. But I'm going to try to use this sound effect. Hopefully I hit the right one, because I can't see my keyboard in VR. I have to use tricks, and we're gonna try this now. Let's see. Breaking news, everyone. The HTC Vive has been delayed. It actually caught news of this just a couple hours before the show, so it was really appropriate. I was going to be choosing something else, but let me read a couple things about that, the statement that was released. So since announcing the HTC Vive, this is from their their press release. Since announcing the HTC Vive in March of this year, we have focused on developing immersive content, refining both hardware design and user experience, and building relationships with new partners both inside and outside the gaming industry. In collaboration with Valve, we have been distributing the HTC Vive developer kits to developers and content creators, and are continuing to work with many other innovative companies to create content that spans gaming, entertainment, medical, education, and retail. This includes hosting a developer conference in Beijing on December 18th, launching the second generation of the HTC Vive developer kit at CES, and engaging audiences at key events including the Sundance Film Festival, South by Southwest, GDC, and others. We will be starting the new year by making an additional 7,000 units available for developers, following by commercial availability in April of 2016. So, yeah, I think the community is definitely talking about this right now, which is an understatement. Theresa, what are your thoughts about that? Were you planning on developing for the Vive? Does this impact you at all?
Yeah, I mean, I want VR to be here soon, but at the same time, it was kind of a relief because we are porting our game for the Vive, and it's just nice to know that we're not going to have to rush it so much, and we'll have the time we need to take it slowly and make it as high quality as possible. So for me, it's a little bit of a relief.
Yeah, I think it's sort of good news. I was worried that is the content going to be there. Back in March, initially, I didn't believe that it was going to happen in December. I thought everything's always delayed, just how things work, especially this brand new medium of VR. So not surprising. For me, the only thing that, hey, what's going on? What's going on, AB? If you could have a
friendly.
seat. Yeah, you're up in my business. So, Vita talk, by the way, if you need help with instructions or any of that. We're totally cool and nice here. But I might have to give you the boot if you just see you can't sit on the stairs area. You got to sit next to one of these other guys, and if you press down E, really need to hold it down. You'll see a red dot pop up, and just let it go, and then you'll have a seat, and we'd love to have you part of things. Awesome, thanks, AB. Sorry to threaten you with the boot. I feel kind of bad about that. So yeah, for me it's a little sadness because I really want motion controls right now. I want to be waving my hands and pointing at everyone and doing all that cool stuff. So I have Hydras. It works here, but it's too much of a mess. Doesn't work well enough, and so it's just can't do that. Was really looking forward to the motion controls as everybody is. But yeah, content's probably going to be better. Probably the hardware too. You know, if it's not working great, if it needs to be better, don't release it in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that we have to put our best foot forward, and I mean, I don't have any real transparency into anything on that side of things, but I feel like it's kind of an optimistic thing to target Christmas because there's, you know, so much like excitement about consumers and stuff, but if you're not going to get Christmas, then just wait, do it right, and you know, roll it out the best quality as possible.
All right, so that was breaking news. It was definitely perfect. Okay, so we've touched on your background and Carmack critique, but is there more of your background? Could you go into a little bit more depth of your gaming background, and love to hear about working on Spore and stuff like that?
Yeah, I have kind of a unique background in that my mom is a game developer, so I'm a second-generation female game developer,
Very cool.
and that's something that is really, really neat. There's not as many women as I'd like to see in the industry, and I think that just having that role model there for me kind of made it a no-brainer for where I was going to spend my creative energy, and I want there to be more women who get excited about it.
For sure. And so what did your mom work on? What platform systems? Very curious.
She did mostly PC development. She worked at EA for quite a number of years, and she worked on some fun IPs, you know, over her career, that especially things that as a child you fall in love with. I think she worked on some Batman stuff and some Strawberry Shortcake stuff, and I don't know, she's done a lot of cool stuff, and she's a producer. So what's kind of neat is like I run into a lot of people in my time in the industry who have worked with her, and everyone always says she was their favorite producer. So it's just really nice to have a lot of people who kind of respect what she's done.
Wow, that's really cool. I bet growing up with all of that and just probably your childhood was amazing.
Yeah, we get so many free video games. I started handing them out for Halloween instead of candy because I just always had so many.
Oh man, these are great stories. That's so cool. Did you go to college?
I did. I went to Berkeley and I studied psychology, but I specifically focused on vision science, which is turning out to be super duper frickin' useful with making VR games.
Wow. And let's hear some more. Just after college, where did you go, and more of these companies that you work for?
Well, straight out of college, I ended up going to EA, and I worked on Godfather. I was a tester, and kind of paid my dues there. Then I went over to Spore, and I started as a tester, but then I was a community manager. So if you were in the Spore community, I was Max's Cactus. I was like doing all the forums and stuff like that. It was super fun. And then at Maxis, I became a producer and worked on Darkspore and SimCity. And then when I left, I had taught myself programming, so I was doing software engineering when I left.
Cool. So yeah, it makes me think. I want to ask you. It's kind of on the spot, but like our community here in VR Chat is growing, and it's the best thing about this place. VR Chat internally doesn't build the worlds or the avatars. There's a very small like starter things, but they're not really used much. It's the community here that's built hundreds of rooms, and these are just a small portion of the avatars that are around, and just it's quite amazing. So our community's tight. On Skype we have a group of about 60 people that are learning Unity, learning how to do all kinds of tricks. Many of them never did any of this before. Unity becoming free was a big push to seeing this kind of content out here. As our community grows, like, is there anything that you learned by managing the sport community, or any advice to us that you can think of?
I think I was just always floored. I mean, this is probably obvious now that Unity and other things have been out there, but I was just floored by the talent of the community. Like, like when I was at Maxis, I think there was one other woman, Kate Compton, and me, and we were like the best creators. So we would geek out in the editors and make all these creatures and stuff. And then as soon as we released, like, the community just went nuts and made so many things that just put us to shame, basically. And I think just when a company, like, that's why UGC is just so cool. Like, if you might have talented people, you might have hired people, but there are so many people out there who want to express themselves creatively, and they have tons of time to do it. Some of them, like, some of them might be students, and you can't, like, if you're a company, you can't, like, really hire students, maybe an intern or something like that. But if you make the tools available for people to express themselves, they'll just run farther than you ever imagined. And I imagine you're seeing the same thing with avatars and rooms and things here.
It's amazing. It feels exponential and that sort of thing. And we just had our first town hall meeting yesterday, and about 20 or 23 of us showed up. And the amount of ideas, so Jesse and Graham are the developers, I'm the events manager, and VR Pill here's marketing, and Mr. Q, who's not here, is testing with VR Chat. And so we're all there with the community, and the ideas are just phenomenal. Too bad we can't just do all that right away, but there's no way that you could do it without them, that you could become this product that we can see and know that's going to become just so amazing, so unique in the social VR space, and proud to be part. I've been in VR Chat for, this month is sort of 2 years for me, because the beta was, like looking for testers. Graham was looking for testers on DK1 2 years ago. January is our official like birthday. This last year we celebrated birthday and had about 60-something people in here. That's probably one of our records. And just, with social VR, obviously people is what matters the most in the community. So, it's great. It's so great.
Yeah, definitely. I was working in the same office for a bit as Graham, and I just was floored by how wonderful he is, and how smart and capable, and it's so cool to be like using what he's created and his team and seeing the community.
Was that the Boost program?
No, that was River. That was River.
Oh, not Boost. I'm getting River, obviously, and I was just talking with somebody last week about Boost. So so were you part of that program, or were you just in the same vicinity or offices?
I was just in the same vicinity for a bit, but actually, so there's so much of it up here. Actually, the Boost group is probably less than 5 blocks from where I'm sitting right now. It's kind of interesting how tight-knit and how close it is spatially.
Also, we had Philip Rosedale in here around our campfire room, and apparently, Graham was there too. And turns out Philip Rosedale's office is right across the street, so that was a cool connection. You kind of meet up in VR. You find out that somebody's right across the street from you in VR chat. That kind of blew my mind. So, and that's obviously he's created a huge social community. So I don't know if you had the pleasure of going to those offices or meeting him.
No, I don't think so. Maybe you can do an intro or something sometime.
Sure. Yeah, hopefully he should be on the show someday. Just trying to get the right day and time. But yeah, he's stoked about VR chat as well, and stoked about High Fidelity. That's of course the project he's working on right now. Cool. So talking about community, I have another segment, brand new segment that I want to try out here. So I'm going to hit another sound effect, see how this goes. Okay, so that's my runway music, and so I want to highlight an avatar that's in the room, and so it Cubed Paradox. Are you still in the room? Hopefully you are.
Yes.
Come on down. Oh, there you are. Over there, you changed your outfit.
Oh, should I get up?
I was causing a problem.
Oh, no.
I should be able to change back now.
Sure. I can actually spawn up to 8 chairs, but to really highlight his avatar, standing will work the best. So yeah, tell us about your avatar.
I've been working on this avatar for a while. Added lots of different features. Latest features, I can spawn a cup. Kind of hard to see, but it's on the table now. So I can trap people, keep them in one place.
Well, they
also,
can't tell they're trapped because it's so transparent. I got caught in it. I'm like, about to restart VR chat.
It can be tricked. It can be tricky. I can also do
that. I haven't seen that. Amazing.
Yeah, you don't want to be standing when I'm doing that. I'll just say that much.
Oh, it pushes you away. Yeah, you did that to me last night when I left. I didn't realize what happened.
Someone was standing. Still.
Yeah, I was just going up to take the panel of the sequence. Alright. I got a good one, actually, from above. Alright, cool.
What else?
So, I've been working on the UI a little bit. So, this doesn't work yet, but I have, icons for all my different functions. And let's see, I don't even know what all the buttons do at this point, but I have all sorts of buttons on it. I can spawn a GIF. I don't know what that did.
It was a Pinkie Pie for a moment.
I don't know if that did anything.
That didn't do anything.
Or this. This should do something. Yeah, this is the Show Me What You Got. I modeled this head.
From Rick and Morty, of course.
Yep.
Yeah, it's amazing how everybody
This
can
is Donald Trump.
themselves. No, that's the sun from Rick
Oh
and
no,
Morty.
this is the sun. Went off.
I like the Donald Trump.
It did scream. I
Nice one.
muted it because
Yeah, it used to.
it screamed every time I opened the menu. Okay.
And there's Donald Trump.
Use Trump.
So you can enhance user experiences for people, and you can also do the opposite and provide. And it's cool.
Also,
Everybody's
I've got
testing all
like
this
dance
stuff out.
animation.
Totally cool.
So, yeah.
And a Christmas hat.
Oh yeah, I'm wearing a hat.
Nice. Well, thank you very much, Q Paradox. It's great being your friend, and thanks for coming down and highlighting your avatar.
Sure, no problem. Pleasure.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right. How was competing in the mobile game jam? It was this last year, right? It was like the beginning.
Yeah, it was. Oh my gosh, yeah, it was just earlier this year. It was fun. I think the best part has been meeting all the other competitors. Like, I didn't know, because I've done so many like Ludum Dares and game jam stuff, but I feel like somehow, because of maybe all the conferences or something, the people who participated in the VR jam kind of ended up gravitating towards each other, and I just kept meeting people, and it's just like really cool to be like, wow, yeah, I played your VR thing, and it was so cool, and now I get to talk to you and pick apart all the decisions you made. And yeah, I guess the reason that's so cool is because everyone is innovating so much. It's not like any other platform. And so when you have a conversation with someone and talk about the reasons that they made certain decisions, it's just a really rich conversational landscape that I have really been enjoying.
Yeah, it was amazing the amount of people that entered, and I know a ton of people that entered into that space as well, and the content that came out of there, the relationships. I mean, what a great thing! It's the second jam that Oculus put on, and it's so smart to do. The Vive should do it as well, or Valve. It's that's how you get content. It's how you find really good content, and then so then you work with Oculus. You work towards this Gear VR game. What was that like? What was the support like, or any challenges there?
Well, Oculus has been like really neat. I know, like, one thing is like, as an indie game developer, pretty much the hardest thing that you are facing is discoverability, because with Unity, with Steam, with the Google Docs, even like with the democratization of game development, with all the tools that are available, there are so many people making games. So it's really hard to get the word out about your games. And like one of the coolest things that Oculus has done, and I know they do this for a lot of people, it's not just me, is like if I just tweet something, they'll retweet it. And I know a lot of people take advantage of that. And just they have so much more of a reach than some like little podunk indie developer like me has. So just getting that kind of like support of even just like with kind of social media and stuff like that has been super duper helpful. But
Cool.
obviously also things like John Carmack doing a review. I mean, hello, huge.
So what about this consumer launch of the Gear? That happened in November, which really a few weeks ago. Has anything changed for you? Are you excited about that, or is everything just kind of still status quo? You're not really. You're just working at what you guys are working at, what you've been working at.
I think that being a launch title has opened up a lot more doors than I was expecting. I have been I think the world right now is looking at VR, and they're looking at who's doing things with VR. People are kind of cautious and they're kind of hesitant. They're waiting for the market to prove itself. But I've been invited to go to Turkey and do a talk at a game development conference there, and I was invited to China tonight. And so it's crazy to kind of start plugging into this much more global community and be a part of this conversation that's happening where everyone is getting excited about this new technology. And I think being a part of launch, like being a part of that early set of content on the Gear has really helped, because there isn't as much stuff yet, so it's helping out a lot.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the dialogue and conversation around VR is huge now. 1 year ago, DK1 days, not happen. It's very much really the good old days where DK1 and still is a DK2, but you see big film studios, bigger game studios, like CCP and stuff, really in on it, and it's great. It's validating the industry. Lots of conversation. Still plenty of negativity of is this gonna work out, or screen door effects. Really what people will be complaining about, but really cool to be a launch title, right? And I'm really impressed with your VR for for a mobile platform. I always thought mobile was going to be big, and so it's obviously that has proven, even though it can't necessarily, we were worried about it being able to process fast enough, but it's obviously proofs in the pudding. It totally has great experiences, and it's just going to grow. And then reading things like you've been featured in the CNET article, the Carmack review, and I just saw your live stream with Robert Scoble, so that's pretty exciting. I'm sure that was a huge reach.
Yeah, that was kind of unexpected. I feel like I kind of just spam everyone. I'm like, hey, come to my studio, come, chat with me about VR, tell me what you're working on. And he kind of just pulled out his phone or camera or whatever it was and just did an interview, and I didn't have a chance to get nervous or get excited or anything. I just kind of went with it. But that was really generous of him to do, and I'm super duper thankful.
So when it comes to gear, everybody's wondering how many gears are out there. Nobody's going to know. I don't expect you to know. We can speculate. But I'm always curious, and you don't have to answer these questions, but how are sales going? I had Richie Hoagland from Daydream VR, that gear title, and he was talking about he's had about 600 sales since the beginning. Have you seen sales increase? Do you have anything you can share about that, or maybe you can't?
I can't speak to specifically on the metrics, but I mean, I think it's a little conservative. I think that it's as expected. Nothing has been a shock for me. We went out and people seem to be liking the game, but the market is very new, and I think that is just going to happen. So I think the big thing is going to be how are VR indies especially going to sustain themselves as this market is growing, because it's just taking off right now.
And how do you pick your price point? I'm wondering about, a lot of the games are $9.99. I'm a little hesitant. It's fair to me, but then I'm also a little I can't just buy up a bunch. You can't try them beforehand. I can see, for people that don't have their VRC legs or don't have as much, time with VR games, being possibly hesitant. How do you pick that price point? Do you still think that's a good price point? Do you think, based on your sales? I think some people think it's, these are mobile games, so that's why it might be expected to be cheap. Some games are $1, $2, $3 on mobile platforms. But this is more than that. This is a VR game, but also it's less than like a Steam game or a PC game.
Well, we really let precedent kind of inform our decision there. It seemed like $9.99 was a very kind of go-to figure for people, especially with games of our scope and content sort of quality and level. I think that there will be probably less of a race to the bottom just because you can get sick, and so I would be hesitant myself to buy something or download something that is super duper cheap, because I just don't want a free ticket to throwing up. But I think that right now people are making innovations, and that makes development a little bit slow going. Everyone who's doing this right now is stumbling across solutions and trial and error, and it's just not as fast as you would get development on a more tried and true platform. So I think that will drive up the price a little bit, just because development timetables are slightly inflated because of innovation.
That makes sense. And Scole's interview mentioned about funding, and you guys are self-funded.
Yep.
which is pretty impressive. That's great. Are you guys seeking funding?
Well, if someone was going to throw a deal at us that was really awesome, then great.
Sure.
But right now, I mean, I have my other indie game, Cannon Brawl, and that's on Steam, and so that's kind of helping me out with costs. And then the VR Jam gave us a chunk of change. I'm a serial contest enterer, so I've won a lot of money. I think I've won about $250,000 in contests for games I've submitted.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's not something everyone does, which is maybe why it's worked out for me. But yeah, self-funded so far. But yeah.
Cool. All right, so third and last segment that I want to do is a lightning round, quick questions with you, whatever comes to the top of your head. There's no right, wrong answers. There's not a bunch of questions, but let's give it a shot.
Okay, let's do it.
Appropriate cheesy sound effects. Okay, so what do you want first if you had the choice between eye tracking or full body tracking?
Oh, eye tracking.
Eye tracking, cool. What's more important to you, resolution or field of view?
Resolution.
Yeah, me too. What are some of your favorite games of all time?
I love Fallout 3, which is why I'm loving Fallout 4 right now. I love Plants vs. Zombies. And then I love Race for the Galaxy if we're going to go board games, because I'm a huge board game geek.
Right on. And, you know, don't want to play favorites, but what are some cool VR experiences that you've, tried and you like?
I really liked Cros, which was another VR
Nick
Jam
Pittham's
entry.
Yeah, game.
Yeah, and I really liked Land's End. It was just so tactile and wonderful feeling and elegant with the S2 games of the Monument Valley folks. And I think some of my favorites from the Jam were Crossover, Wendy, and Innovox.
Cool. And last question, if you could time travel and kind of see into the future and learn one thing about VR, like a year from now, like what would you want to know? An example could be like how many CV1 units have sold.
I would want to know the modal selling VR headset, which one is just selling most units and where is the market going.
Yep. I guess my example kind of hit on that.
Yeah.
Cool. So I have one more thing to ask you, but I want to remind the audience that we do questions, feedback, thoughts, jumping into any of the stuff that we've talked about, open question time at the end. So that's going to happen right after this last little bit. So if you could get your questions or thoughts ready, that would be super awesome. So I was wondering if you had, any tips for us that are just getting into playing with sort of game development or creating content. We use Unity, but we're also using Blender and Maya. But it doesn't have to be specific to any of these programs. It could be just like art direction or anything that, any kind of gems that maybe could be help influence us or just be something that we could take back and learn from.
Yeah, sure. So Bazaar is a procedurally generated game, but the way we craft it is very hand-authored. So we lay out maps, and we have different, they're usually sort of like pixel art based, and we have different colored pixels to represent different sort of events or loot that you're going to find. And then we tune it there, and we tune, and do lots of play tests until we figure out the right sort of like balances, and then we go and make all of our procedural generation algorithms and rules and conditionals based on that information. And that just saves us a lot of headache. So, I think like procedural generation is kind of this like really fun goal to have, but don't think that it's going to be a savings for development. You're actually just going to have to do both.
Cool. Thank you for that. I'd love to see I love procedural generation, stuff just to replay value of all that. So awesome. Audience, anybody have questions for Theresa or just want to talk about anything? Throw it out there. Just go ahead and say your name and shoot away.
Yeah, hey Theresa, it's Jason from the VR Phil. First, I did really enjoy your game, and I remember playing it back at the Game Jam. It was lots of fun, but for the mobile Oculus Game Jam. But the question I had, you did mention you went to China, right? You've been all over the world. Did you say you went to China, or?
Oh, nope. I haven't been there yet. I'm just, it sounds like we are going to have an opportunity to show at an upcoming VR conference in China coming up at the end of December.
Oh, okay, gotcha. There's a guy in here last week that had really good comments about China. It was pretty interesting. But I guess then my question is, since you've developed for the Gear VR, which has a lot of limitations in what you can bring over to it, in VR chat, a lot of the people in the community are trying to create bigger and bigger worlds with sort of similar limitations, even though we're on PC platform with what we're capable of doing. Do you have any tips maybe that you could let out here for creating maybe more ambitious or bigger worlds with limitations that maybe you've had in the Gear VR? I believe, did you use Unity as your platform for?
Oh, we developed our own custom engine. But yeah, one thing I would just recommend is take advantage of texture memory because it is so cheap. So if you want to push the feelings of animation or just sort of like liveliness of your world, you can really get away with a lot of sort of like sprite style flip-book animations, things like that. I don't think that's totally intuitive. I didn't anticipate that going to VR.
All right, great. Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Anybody else?
I've got one.
Hey,
I'm Nate8. We actually shared an Uber together at Connect and emailed back a couple of times, Theresa.
Yeah, I remember. Hey.
I've been wondering what is next for Temple Gates. I think you guys have a tremendous pool of talent and a pretty interesting vision for Bazaar. So is the next few months, the next year, is that focusing on Bazaar, bringing it to Vive? Is there a Bazaar 2 in the works, or do you have other larger ideas that you're going to be bringing to VR?
Yeah, so one of the goals that we had going into this was to make a game that would hit every platform, and we can do that with our engine. It does let us do concurrent multi-platform development, so there isn't any real separate porting that we're going to have to do. But that being said, there is like a lot of biz dev and that kind of stuff when you really fund a new platform. So we'll be doing some of that. So we'll be coming out on the Vive, we'll be coming out on the Oculus Rift, and we'll be coming out on Sony. And so there will be some amount of work there. We're also continuing to do some development on the Bazaar. We've put in this achievement system, we're putting in some fixes, and there's some more features we want to get in just to really push the game because we were super aggressive in getting it out to being a launch title on the Gear, and there's still stuff that we're all excited about that we haven't gotten into the game quite yet. And then after that, we're just excited about a bunch of prototypes. Like we've got some prototypes in the office in the studio. If anyone's ever up here in San Mateo, you can come by, check out what we've got. We've got a jousting one we've been making. It's a multiplayer game. We have a LARPing game that we're kind of excited about because we're total nerds. And I don't know, we have a bunch of ideas. We're going to kind of try to figure out what the team is most excited about. Because once you're as small as we are, I feel like just kind of capitalizing on momentum as far as morale is the hugest thing. It doesn't matter if it's the best idea. It's just how much are people going to pour themselves into it. So we have to kind of figure out where that is, but we have some good leads, so I'm pretty excited.
Great. And a follow-up, is anybody on the team doing the Ludum Dare this weekend?
Yes, we are. I might not be, but I know team members are and are excited and will be. I don't think they announced the theme yet, so still holding back a little bit on that.
Cool.
Yeah, we Violet here participates in that and asked people here in the community if wanted to put a team together and work on something. So we now have Team VR is the name, and that's really cool.
That's awesome.
Go TBR. Okay.
Great. Any more questions? Feel free. Okie doke. Well, Theresa, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much for hosting. This was really fun.
I hope you come back to VR Chat and keep checking things out. It's evolving, and I don't know if you have time afterwards. We'll take you on a tour. There's only hundreds of rooms, so we can take you to a few that are pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd love that.
All right, so just a couple announcements from me. Of course, join us here in VR Chat every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific for our Sunday meetup. We've been doing it for nearly 2 years, which just sounds ridiculous, but we have. Something really cool is I'm going to be on the Real Virtual Show on Monday, what is that, the 14th? And that is you'll be able to see my beautiful face. That's a webcam show, almost like a mixture between Google Hangouts and Periscope. There's a live chat room. Malia Probst, maybe getting the last name, but she's Malia. You can find her on Twitter. And therealvirtualshow.com will really be the best hub to get you to. They use Blab. That's the mixture of like Google Hangouts and Periscope. The chat room there is really cool. You can post questions. She'll put them on the show, and because the system like has a great way to solicit questions. And then at the end, if you want to like basically join the call with your webcam, you can come on and talk and all that really cool stuff. So really excited about that. I'm going to be nervous as hell, and then everybody can pick on me for how I look with this big scraggly beard that I've got sporting right now. And then next Tuesday, I'm really happy to have Nathan Beatty on my show. He is the developer of a mini golf game that it's in development. It's for the Vive. I'm sure you've all seen videos on the subreddit. It's gotten a lot of attention. I actually got to test it before it was being developed on the Vive when all he had was Hydra controllers, and I really enjoyed it then. And then I'm just hearing from other people that are trying out the game great things about it. It's going to be social, which makes a lot of sense. It looks beautiful, and really excited for that. So come back next Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. And then the following day, so Monday is I'm on the Real Virtual Show, Tuesday back here, and then on Wednesday we are prototyping a comedy club here in VR Chat. It's not the first comedy club in VR, but it's going to hopefully be awesome. There's quite a beautiful room being modeled that looks, a great intimate comedy stage with all the typical stuff you would find at a comedy venue. And Paul Jensen and Danny Sales are the guys really behind it. It's going to be their club. I'm just helping them, being the events manager here. I love to help anybody start up events. And they have, they're in the entertainment field. They're not in the tech and VR field. Paul Jensen is James Jensen's brother, who is the CTO at The Void. Paul's actually a film editor, and he's works at FX and has tons of editing experience, and it's really cool to look at his reels. And then Danny Sales is a producer, director. He's directed a couple Malcolm in the Middle shows, and produced Kathy Griffin on the D-List, the Andrew Dice Clay, some of those reality shows and MTV shows. So they have access to some interesting talent. I really hope this all works out. It's all going to be a prototype next week. I don't know exactly how it's going to go down, but I wanted to announce it. And then maybe in January, February, we start seeing a regular comedy club with them finding talent out of Caroline's in New York and maybe the Jimmy Kimmel Show out of L.A. So it's obviously a lot of hype that I'm pouring out there. Everything could be the most bestest thing ever, or there could be problems because it's VR, and who knows, comics could get sim sickness, and that would be like the worst possible thing. But I wanted to announce that. I think it's really cool, and I'm putting a lot of effort behind that. So those announcements, support me if by going to the Reddit post and leaving comments, by going to guntersuniverse.com and subscribing to the newsletter so you'll get updates on all these cool events. And if you want to throw me a quarter a week, $1 a week, you can go to my Patreon at patreon.com/Gunter. And that's it. Thanks to the Gunters Universe team, to people that are supporting me on Patreon currently, and of course Theresa and everybody watching at home and here in the audience. It's been great. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you next Tuesday here on Gunters Universe. Bye-bye. All right, time to stretch the legs and show off my little dance move. Thanks, everybody. This is awesome.
Oh my god, I love the other room.
Oh, yeah. Violet's magic carpet.
That's awesome.
Very cool. Thanks again, everybody. Another, that's episode 36. As Julio Laporte from Twit would say,
Alright.
in the can. Yeah.
Yeah.
36 weeks in
okay.
a row. Crazy.
Oh wow. Jeez. Non-stop.